I learned this the slow way, but cardiovascular fitness is literally represented by a triangle. The base is your aerobic training, everything you do at a slow heart rate. And the peak, the vertical, is your VO2 max, everything you do at a high heart rate. Everybody's got a different shape of a triangle, all right? Some look like this, others look like that. What matters is the surface, okay? The bigger the surface, the fitter you are. And I, of course, had no idea. So when I was training for Run for Europe, 24 marathons in 2 months, I was only training zone 2, okay? I thought that I was gonna run 24 marathons in 2 months. I needed to get good at slow distance. Satisfy called it LSD, long, slow distance. So that, along with strength and mobility, that was everything I did. So yeah, I thought I was incredibly fit, but in reality, my triangle looked somewhat like that. But here's the burner. If I had invested only 40 minutes per week into VO2 max training, my triangle would have looked more like that, which would have made me much, much fitter and also much, much faster on marathons. And 40 minutes per week represented about 4.4% of my weekly training in terms of time. So that's nothing, okay? So really high return on investment there. So after 6 years of studying all the stuff, here's everything I know about increasing your cardiovascular fitness. Number one, the 80-20 rule. 99% of elite endurance athletes, no matter what the sport is, train like that. They train 80 to 90% of the time in their slow heart rate zones, okay, zone 2. And they do 10 to 20% of their weekly training in zone 4 or 5. Let's take Pogačar, for example. The world's best cyclist, wins Tour de France almost every year. I would say from a cardiovascular perspective, Pogačar is probably the fittest person on earth today. Pogačar does more than 90% of his training in zone 2. All right, this has several advantages. Number one, your body becomes extremely efficient at utilizing oxygen and fuel for your training. And that's gonna help you go for a very long time without feeling that you're burning out. Number two is you drastically lower the risk of injury by doing this kind of training. You cannot go hard every day. Your body would not allow you to do that, all right? And by training slowly in zone 2, you kind of build that base that will allow you to do the very hard sessions. I like to think of it like building a house. The foundation is your easy work, your zone 2 training. If you don't have a good foundation, you build a big house on top, it's gonna crack, right? It's gonna fall apart. So if you wanna be a fit person, if you wanna be strong and everything, you are going to need a really good foundation, all right? And you build that by doing a lot of disciplined zone 2 training. So that's what Pogačar does. And last but not least, it helps you recover very easily for the next day, all right? If you do 3 days of zone 2 training, even if you train for 2 hours, 1 night's sleep will allow you to recover fully, okay, to be ready again the next day. That's how you get better over time. Number 2 is the black hole. You don't want to train in zone 3. Zone 3 is a very bad idea. Why? Because it's too slow to actually train your peak, okay? And it's too hard to recover from it really well for the next day. So instead of training in zone 3 today, which kind of feels difficult, but doesn't give you a lot of gain, it's much better to train zone 2. So go slowly today, and then tomorrow go really hard. Okay, that's a much better return on your time investment. Number 3 is progressive intervals. So the best way to do your interval sessions is not to go very hard from the beginning, but rather to build your intensity during the interval. So let's say you're doing a 30-second interval running, you do that 10 times. Instead of running full-out sprint from the beginning, it's much better to start a bit slower, okay, and then increase your speed over time. And then the second interval you go a bit faster, and the third interval you go a bit faster. I know it's very, very difficult, but that's actually a great, great way to train your neuromuscular connection, all right? You understand your pace, you understand your body, you understand yourself much better. And that's gonna allow you during race day to really have a good feeling about, okay, how hard are you going and how long can you sustain that pace? Now, if you're a beginner runner, I would not recommend doing hard interval sessions every week. The thing is, you're already putting increased stress on your body through running more and more mileage. You're increasing distance every week, and that puts stress on your bones, tissues, cartilage, muscles, tendons, whatever. Now, if you sprinkle hard interval sessions on top of that, there's a really high chance that you will get injured. I had shin splints for about 2 or 3 years because of that issue, right? Today, I do much more hill sessions, okay? Intervals on hills. The advantage with doing intervals on hills is that you have less vertical impact because you're running uphill. So you're basically putting less stress on your tissues. Another really good way to do your VO2 max training without putting too much stress on your legs is doing it on an assault bike. Okay, there's much less vertical impact, much less stress on the joints. And if you're increasing mileage already, it's a good idea to maybe do your VO2 max training on one of these machines. I highly recommend it. So the main takeaway from this week is if you want to build really strong cardiovascular fitness, it's about yin and yang, rhythm and balance. Okay, you cannot only do one thing. Slow work builds base, hard work builds peak. And it's the surface of the triangle that will determine your cardiovascular fitness. So thanks for tuning into the Weekly Wild. I'm Rapha, and see you next week.